we need to talk about something absolutely wild that just happened in the UK. The comedy writer behind Father Ted and the It Crowd, Graham Linehan, was arrested by 5 armed police officers in Heathrow Airport for posting 3 anti-trans tweets. The stress of the incident was so intense that he was later hospitalized with dangerously high blood pressure.
It is alleged that on the 19th of April 2025, you published a post on X that was deemed to be intended to stir up hatred, incite violence on the grounds of sexual orientation. What was the post? I'll tell you the post.
You sure? Comedy writer, wrote Father Ted. Are you idiot?
You're under arrest.
I'm only I'm not the famous. I'm under arrest. You know what this country looks like to America. I'm going to sue you onto the ground. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue you all. I dare you. I dare you. I've been surrounded by trans activists for 8 years. And then these guys are working for them. You idiots. I'm infuriated. You scumbags are working for assholes that go into women's toilets. You don't for standing up for women's rights.
He was released on bail until October with the condition that he wouldn't post on X. We're talking about the British police stepping into the role of thought police, deciding which opinions are criminal and which are not. Okay, so the police thinks that Graham incited violence, and here's the tweet I think they're referring to. If a trans-identified male is in a female-only space, he's committing a violent, abusive act. Make a scene, call the cops, and if all else fails, punch him in the balls. What's the problem with this tweet? He's making such a good point, an interesting point, something that we all need to talk more about. If a huge, creepy, hairy man insists on being in the women's locker room, or in the women's restroom, just because he identifies as a trans woman, that's harassment. And if employees don't care, if the police doesn't care, I don't know about kicking him in the balls, but you know what? Women have the right to self-defense. If they're being stalked, if they're being harassed, if they're being violated, they should have the right to defend themselves. Just because a man claims to be trans doesn't mean that he gets a free pass. Doesn't mean he's allowed to make women uncomfortable, violate them. And the thing about, oh, he's inciting violence, he's talking about a hypothetical man, a hypothetical person. It's ridiculous. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of violent threats against real people, like, let's say, J.K. Rowling, on X, and the police doesn't care. Okay, so the second tweet is this picture of a protest, I'm assuming. And Graham writes, "A photo you can smell." That tweet is not only funny, it's true. I don't see anything wrong with this tweet. And here's the third tweet. I hate them, misogynists and homophobes. I love it. He's referring to trans activists. They are anti-women. They don't care about women's safety, women's rights, children's right to be gay and not trans. So, again, it seems like the truth is criminal according to the UK. Graham has been outspoken for years about this topic, about women's rights, specifically around safeguarding and the rise of extreme gender ideology. And let me be crystal clear, Graham is not anti-trans, anti-transsexual. He's anti-trans ideology.
I have a problem with the word transgender. I think it's meaningless because the word trans was understood by most people to mean transsexual. And we all kind of have sympathy for anyone who goes through very serious steps to change their bodies like that. And I always agreed that they need to be protected, they need to have proper health care, all that sort of thing. But I noticed that transgender was coming in, which didn't mean the same thing. Transgender meant everything from transsexuals to some bloke who paints his fingernails black. calls himself queer, and demands to be let into women's spaces.
He knows that there's a huge difference between real transsexual people who just want to live their lives and then the harmful, crazy trans activists who want to change society.
Mainstream trans activism is violently phrased, harasses lesbians. It's not a good movement. You can find many trans people who are in absolute despair at what's being done in their name.
By the way, he follows me on X, and I think it's really cool. Graham was brutally cancelled, and I don't mean that a couple of people unfollowed him just because they didn't like his opinions. His career got destroyed. His marriage ended. He lost his income because he dared to say that women deserve boundaries. He dared to defend biological reality.
From the moment I started talking about this issue, I had friends and even family members distance themselves from me. I got threats. I got nasty emails, nasty direct messages, some of them from people I'd worked with for years, everyone telling me to shut up. Then I had the police at my door twice. They visited on behalf of trans rights activists. I lost my family, my marriage at least. I'm still close to my children, but I lost my marriage because I kept losing jobs and opportunities. And it was just kind of unrelenting pressure. It's just been a nightmare for the last 6 years. I haven't written any comedy in 6 years. Instead, I've had to write journalism because journalists refuse to do their jobs on this issue.
And after years of being torn apart online, he's now being treated like a literal criminal. Over effing tweets. Just think about that for a second. Think about how we have reports of women calling the police about stalking or abuse and being told, sorry, we don't have the resources. The UK has a massive problem with gangs grooming children, and the police won't do anything about it because they're afraid of being called racists. They've got problems with knife crime tearing through communities. But sure, let's arrest the comedian who's against men and women's sports and children being sterilized with puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. Makes total sense, right?
Personally do think that Graham Linehan should have been confronted by the authorities for putting out tweets encouraging people to be violent towards trans people. You are a public figure and you're encouraging people to commit violence against a vulnerable group. That is something the authorities should probably look into just to be safe. The guy literally lost his wife and kids because he thought hating trans people was more important.
Just heard that Graham Linehan got arrested for inciting hatred, inciting violence against trans people. And he's claiming he was mistreated, in that he was treated like a and yet he just doesn't understand how his words are terrorizing the trans community, a marginalized community.
This is exactly why it's so important to make the distinction between real transsexuals and crazy trans activists. Because then people can make the argument that, oh, he hates all trans people. He's inciting violence. He wants all trans people to get attacked. Like, no. He's actually not talking about trans people. He's talking about the blue-haired activists who are appropriating the trans identity.
If your nice trans friend is someone who wouldn't do any of those things, I'm not talking about them. I'm only talking about the people who do these things. And what they've done is they've successfully made it sound like I'm talking about every trans person in the world when I'm not.
The only reason why trans activists are allowed to do so much harm to society is because they're hiding behind real LGBT people by appropriating their experiences, their identity. So if we expose them, make the clear and important distinction, we will have a great chance of shutting this clown show down. The last thing I want to say is I, of course, support Graham. I think he's awesome. I have no idea what's going to happen to him. But I hope that more and more people are going to wake up after hearing about his arrest. Because this whole thing is so bizarre. Even if you disagree with him, disagree with everything he says, to literally arrest him is bonkers, as they will say in Britain. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see more content like this, remember to hit subscribe and the notification bell. Let me know what you think about this story. I cannot wait to read your comments down below. Peace out.